The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Ray. You are listening to a least worst of The Doctor Is In. We have no best of, but this is truly one of our least worst. You want some bad news, Michael?
No.
What are you asking me?
You're the guru of the gray matter. I figured if anybody had it, you'd have the answer.
I can't give you any direction.
I think I'm going to have to change this channel. I'm sorry.
You're completely wrong.
I refuse to be wrong on 2 calls in a row.
Tell me I'm spot on or tell me I'm crazy and I'll get out.
I have no idea.
I have a 6-month-old, so we'll be raising him according to Dr. Ray.
Talk about being a winner.
So, you want my question?
You ain't making any sense.
You're absolutely right. I just needed confirmation.
So what are you going to do about it, Dawn?
I'm calling you.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
This job is too cool, if that's what you want to call it. If you want to call it a job, it's not really a job. It is a privilege. That's what I would call it. Get a chance to sit and listen to you and talk to you, hear a lot of stuff that's on your mind. Stuff is a good male word. You really don't hear women using the word stuff very often. Just like you don't hear women talking about tanks, how fast they can go while they still fire, or whether it's smart to call a draw play on 3rd and 12. I'm painting a room. I'm painting a bedroom. My daughter moved out. She's living in my duplex. She's not there anymore. It took us close to 2 hours transform her room into our room. So there was some kind of, you remember when those kind of matted finishes were? You painted it and then you matted it with a rag and something like that, a rag finish. Well, it had been like that for 15 years. And I was painting it a very nice, pretty tan color. It's called accessible beige. I thought it looked great. Then my wife came in. She said, "Yeah, kind of a green beige." I'm thinking, how can she see that? I can't see that. So I had to give it a second coat. And then she said it was beige. I don't know how they do it. She knows the difference between linen white and eggshell white and off-white and farmhouse white, and I don't know how they do that. Cream white. 877-573-7825. 877-57 the number to call to get onto the program if you would like to ask a question, make a comment about something in your life that matters or doesn't matter. Doesn't matter much at all, but you just figure, I would like to analyze it a little bit. I'm a psychologist. What type? There are many different types. I'm a clinical psychologist. Those are the folks who are more or less geared toward assessment, therapy, diagnosis. Now, on the radio here, we don't do assessment and therapy and diagnosis, but we can talk, can educate, give a few ideas. Maybe 2 of us putting our head together can outsmart that 6-year-old, or can give you some direction with that 26-year-old, or to master and navigate life with that 56-year-old. 877-573-7825 is the number. I also welcome people who give their own insights on life. Many people, obviously, have virtually infinite experiences. A little tweak here and there, but for the most part, they can offer something new, enlightening, and it is usually something I'll take a note on. I'll write it down. And then, when I get enough of them, I weave them together into a book, and I make a lot of money. I just want to thank you. It's very kind of you to do that for me, to basically write my books. 877-57 is the number to call to get onto the program. Next week, good Lord permitting, we'll be heading out to Orange County, California, and San Juan Capistrano. What a great little name of a town, isn't it? San Juan, St. John. Capistrano, talking to the Legatus groups there. Legatus was a business group founded by the founder of Domino's Pizza, Tom Monahan. It's a great idea, and they're all over the country now, and probably all over the world. So get a chance to speak with them. 877-57-EQUAL is the number to call to get on to the program. Definitely want to hear from you. You make the show. Interesting phenomenon occurs in marriage counseling. Not uncommonly, someone will come in, and there's been a marriage-rocking adulterous affair. Just has been discovered or had been barely below the radar. There's suspicion for some time, but nothing confirming, and it's not something you want to think is going to happen. And then the evidence came in, incontrovertible evidence, often through a phone, often through the person they're having the relationship with calling, trying to make something happen. A couple of things happen in that. Well, many things happen in that, but a couple of prominent things. It's surprising how many people will say some version of, I always thought if there was adultery. They call it an affair. I don't like calling it an affair. It makes it sound like fluffy, doesn't it? I'm having an affair. No, that term is stupid, and it is trivializing. So it's adultery. I always thought if my spouse did something like that, the marriage would be over. I couldn't live with somebody I couldn't trust. That was their prediction. They predicted how they would react in a situation like that, and they were wrong. They find themselves wanting to make this marriage work, wanting to heal, especially if their partner is penitent and pleading and saying it's over and I will not do that again and it was terrible, etc., and we were having a bad time in our marriage and one thing led to another, etc. There's kids, there's a history, there are financial complications, there are split custody issues, just so many things involved, and the person says, if we can heal from this, that is something we should try to do. Here's the second prominent thing that happens. The person who committed the adultery, let's say, is genuinely penitent and sorry, and wants to do whatever he or she can to move forward. Most of the time, they underestimate the damage, the emotional crushing of their spouse, who thinks about it a lot, can't get it out of his or her head. Hard to be hard to be intimate because they wonder if the spouse is thinking something else. All kinds of complications. This goes on for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 months, and the offended spouse is just having a hard time with this in so many ways. The trust that he or she used to have is not there anymore. Now they wonder, if you're 8 minutes late, where were you? They want to look at your phone. All the things that you took for granted are now taken away. And then this often enters the picture. The spouse who had the tryst gets upset. In essence, saying, how long are you going to punish me? When are we going to get over this? I want to move on. This is taking forever. All variants of the dynamic. And all grounded in the idea that you underestimated what you did. Not unusual for me to tell the offending spouse, you better just endure whatever comes your way until and if and when there's healing beginning. You can't start complicating the picture by getting angry and agitated and upset at your spouse because they can't get over this as quickly as you'd like them to. Depending upon who it is, this thing can do some real damage. A year, 2, 3, 4. It can. And I warn people prior to this, if you're thinking of doing this, and then you're going to try to repair your marriage, you better realize the time frame here is not going to be 2 months and everything's back to normal. Let that be a warning to you. There's a third phenomenon. It's a phenomenon for another day and another monologue, which is a good part of the time, the person that they chase outside of their marriage turns out to be not someone they'd want to be with. Initially, it was all new and exciting, and they were getting attention, and this is great, and you don't have to get all of the complications involved in living together and making decisions about kids and finances and everything else. This is all just freedom. And then as you get to know the other person, the complications set in. And you find out, oh boy. Sometimes they think, what am I doing? My spouse is twice this person. Then sometimes it's too late because they've already destroyed the marriage for someone they're not going to be with anyway. That's another monologue. 877-573-7825. 877-57 I'd very much like to hear from you. Please give me a call.
Están escuchando al Dr. Ray, mi héroe y amigo español de corazón.
Now, wait a second.
Call now for great advice from Dr. Ray.
When your children consider going to college, where are you going to find a place that will prepare them for the future and build on the foundation that you've laid? The answer? Ave Maria University. With an authentically Catholic curriculum including 35 majors, AMU prepares students to take on the world.
My daughter told me she was published in a scientific journal as an undergrad. I'm so proud of her. The world needs Catholic physicists, and my daughter's going to be one of them.
Learn more at avemaria.edu. That's avemaria.edu.
And now, the EWTN Family Prayer with Father Joseph.
Family, a prayer that we pray together is a powerful prayer. So please pray together with me our EWTN Family Prayer. Today we pray for the caregivers of the sick. O most Holy Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we adore you. You have first loved us, and through your Son you have taught us the excellence of self-giving love. Give to those who are caregivers of a sick parent or child, brother or sister, the assistance of your holy angels. Lessen their burdens and give them great joy in practicing a work of mercy. And since charity is never forgotten by you, reveal to them their heavenly reward. Amen.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
You're listening to The Least Worst of The Doctor Is In with Dr. Ray Guarendi. So please, no calls at this time.
I wrote a book called Being a Grandparent, Just Like Being a Parent, Only Different. It's some of the most common questions I get from grandparents, and this one that I'm going to marry in Virginia, or it's either that or Virginia in Mary. This is one of the questions. This is definitely one of the questions where the grandchildren, this is a parallel to a divorce where the children are used as weapons. In many cases now, it's intergenerational. The grandchildren are used as weapons. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Doctor.
Well, what's going on there?
Well, it's a long story, but I want to make it short. We had a conversation a few days ago, and basically, our son feels offended by my husband's approach. My husband has had some verbal altercation, like he gets angry and he says things because he thinks that he deserves more respect, and my kids think that they also deserve respect. They're all adults, my kids, but so they won't let us see the grandbaby. That's the bottom line.
How old's the grandbaby?
So she's just a month and a half, probably 2 months old.
So prior to
we
this,
hardly saw her when she was born. Sorry?
Mary, prior to this, when they didn't have a grandbaby to say you can't see the grandbaby, how did they stay away from you? Did they say we don't want you in our lives?
No, they even stayed with us for a few weeks because the hospital was close to where we live, and they live farther away. So it was a great relationship, and so we are in shock, and it's been very sad, the past few weeks, the conversations we have with him. He says he gets along better with the family of his wife, and that we should respect that, and then it's going to take them a while to come around and to give them space. They didn't want us to come to the hospital, even though they were staying with us at the time. But when they needed economic support, we're there for them. So there was no problem there. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hey, not going to be any problem when you're giving people money. He's a psychologist?
Sorry?
He's a psychologist? Is that right?
Yes.
Is he a Christian?
Oh, yeah. We're all Catholic. Very Catholic. So that's the other part. We never thought in a million years that of our kids, this was going to happen, So it's very, very sad and very complex, I guess. I don't know.
So he thinks that his father is a pain in the butt, and he just figures it's better not to be around him all that much.
Yeah, I think so. I think he has some resentment, So
how far back do these resentments go?
He says it's been for many years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the way he's letting us know to stay apart until we change, or until my husband changes towards him or something.
And your husband's not about to do that, is he?
He finally did it a few days ago, and he called him on the phone, and he was able to apologize to him. But my husband wanted to keep going and saying other things that he wanted to. But I said, just stop right there and just let him, process what you just said, and give them time, to heal and to come to peace. So it was very hard for my husband to do it, but he did. And
I'm impressed. Mary, I'm impressed. Yes. I got to respect him for doing that, because I was going to say, if he can do it, then he probably should apologize for his part of the problem. Obviously, you think that your son has part of the problem too, and who knows the influence his wife is having. But given all that, given all that, your husband did a beautiful thing. He went and said, for my part, I'm sorry. Did that soften your son at all?
Well, we haven't spoken since, but the sad thing is that we haven't been able to see the grandchild. So that's the part that I'm struggling with. I mean, I love them. I respect them. I don't want them to say, okay, my mother-in-law or my mom did or said this, and that's why we're having trouble in our marriage, or because they've just been married for a couple of years.
Ask your son one question.
Mm-hmm.
What will have to be different for us to be able to see that little grandbaby? Ask him.
We have tried to ask him, but he won't tell us directly. He just says that the family on the other side has been nicer to them, that has been very loving, that they get along very well, and the wife feels better with them than with us. And then they also
then ask him this, Mary. Mary, ask him this.
Yes.
Say, okay, they're easier to get along with than we are. We accept that. Does that mean that we shouldn't be allowed to see the baby just because they're easier to get along with than we are?
Yes,
are we that hard to get along with? Ask them.
Yeah, I think that's what his logic is behind all this. And, during the baptism, we were only invited, us, the parents, and the godparents, and they didn't even allow me to touch the baby. I tried to touch, her foot with my finger, and then he said, don't touch her,
Mary, here's the problem. Here's the problem I have. I have no idea what you, or mostly your husband, as you say it, act like toward your son and your daughter-in-law. I have no idea. I'm sure you believe that you're not offensive. But if
he says he gets along better with me than with his dad, but I mean,
okay,
I don't want to take sides.
Well, I would ask him this because, first of all, we're not going to. If you're asking me how to change your son's thinking, I can't do that.
Yeah, I know.
I really respect what your husband did. That's what I would have suggested. You apologize for your part of the problem. Hopefully that'll soften him. If your son talks to you, Mary, you say, is it worth it? Are we so bad that you cannot allow us to be part at all of this little one's life? Is that what you're saying? I mean, make him explain himself. It's one thing to say, well, her family's a lot nicer than you are. Okay, all right, we got that. Maybe so. Mom, you're nicer than Dad. And, I've always had a problem with Dad for the last 9 years. Okay, all that I accept. But does that lead to saying you have no part in this grandchild's life? How do you ask him? How do you make that leap? It's one thing to say, you're not easy to get along with, but we endure you. And it's quite another to say, get out of our lives. Especially if, one, he says he's a devout Catholic, and two, he's a shrink. I don't get it.
Yeah. He says he doesn't know when he's there already, but before the baby was born, they even asked us if we could babysit in the future when the wife comes back to work. And of course we said yes, especially my husband.
You must have had a big fight. Mary, you must have had a big fight.
Oh, it's been off and on, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know the details, but
the last fight that your husband had with your son probably was the convincer.
Yeah.
The one that made your son say, "I've had it. I'm not taking any more of this. That's enough." One too many. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, I'm going to ask my husband. Maybe
and ask your husband to tell your son, "I'm not going to fight with you anymore. I'm not going to give you any more advice. I'm not going to say how to raise your kid. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm just going to simply enjoy this grandchild, and I'll prove it to you if you give me and your mom a chance." And then also do this: have your husband. It sounds like he did a great thing and apologize. Have him go to your son and say, "Don't punish Mom. If you have the problem with me and you don't want me around, I can't do anything about that. But don't punish Mom. Let Mom see the baby at least. Maybe your son will soften on that one, and then when he softens on that one, eventually you'll both be back in their lives." Good luck, Mary.
Yeah,
take care, dear.
You. God bless you.
All right. Bye, honey. I'll comment on this later. 877-573-7825. 877-5070. What happens when you apologize and the person, it doesn't make any difference anyway? And I just don't understand something like that. I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. Well, then you're not allowed to do that. It comes down to that. You're not allowed to do that. It's not a matter of, psychology says I should keep them away because they're toxic.
When we refer to our Father who art in heaven, are we talking to a God who is far removed from us? On the contrary, says the Catholic Catechism, we are talking to a Father who is close to humble and contrite hearts. We assert that God is in the hearts of the just, as he is in his holy temple. He is in heaven, his dwelling place. The Father's house is our homeland. Sin has exiled us, but conversion of heart enables us to return to the Father, to heaven. Christians are in the flesh, but they do not live according to the flesh. They spend their lives on earth, but are citizens of heaven. This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo.
The saints are very, very aware of us. Revelation 5 talks about the bowls of incense or the prayers of the saints. We ask them for their intercession, and they love praying for us. St. Therese said, I'm going to spend my time in heaven doing good on earth. And the reason people are walking through this life of sainthood, they start as venerable, then move to blessed, and then move, God willing, to canonization, is because they're interceding. In other words, they're taking requests to Jesus on our behalf. The prayers of intercession to the saints result in miracles, confirmed miracles that are tested exhaustively. So the church is built on solid ground when it comes to the intercession of the saints.
Catholic Connections, Teresa Tomeo. Weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hey, you're listening to the least worst of The Doctor Is In with Dr. Ray Guarendi.
Thank you so much for joining me here on The Doctor Is In. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi. Program comes to you through the cooperative efforts of the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and Ave Maria Radio Communications. Delighted to have you with me. I've got a live read here that I was supposed to have read, and I didn't. So I've got to go find it and get it. Andrew, do you have that live read I was supposed to read? Okay. Got it. So is Ron waiting to talk? Okay. Hey, Ron, this is Dr. Ray. How are you?
Okay, how are you?
Okay.
Hey, Doc, I just got a bulletin from our church on Sunday, and the priest says in this coming election, he said that please make sure you're informed. Don't settle for signs or slogans or political things or individual candidates. Please study the platforms, etc., and voting. That's the exact thing he said for the last 3 elections. The Catholic Church gives no information. They don't even allow a comparison between the two candidates. As a result, the Catholics voted in the most evil people in this country, and they call it politics. It's killing 4,000 babies a day, politics, and all the other stuff going through. And Doc, the worst. So they don't give out information. They don't give out. Our pastor, I gave him a comparison one Friday. Sunday, he's begging the people to look it up. They never said anything. So
all right.
The Catholic Church is committing suicide.
All right, Ron, hold on a second. That's a pretty wild generalization, because a priest said, know the issues, which is a wise thing to say, because if you look at the issues, you will realize who the pro-abortion candidate is. Okay? Most people don't know that, Ron. They don't. They are woefully uninformed. So it's not the Catholic Church. It was your priest who chose to approach it that way. He didn't come out and say, this candidate is pro-abortion, this candidate is pro-life. He didn't say that for whatever the reason. Secondly, EWTN, which I am a part of and have been on many of their shows and listened to many of their shows, they are as pro-life as it gets. They don't come out necessarily and say, vote for this candidate, because there are tax problems involved with that. But they are relentless in saying these candidates are the closest to the core teachings of the Catholic Church. If you want them to come out and say, vote for this person, you're going to be disappointed, because they can't do that in terms of where they stand as a charitable organization. So, given that, some priests are more bold than others. Some priests will go so far as to say you cannot vote for a pro-abortion candidate. You vote for the lesser of the pro-abortion candidates if that's all you have to vote for. They will say that. Others will say, inform yourself. Know what the candidates stand for. Ron, I saw a statistic just recently that 70 to 80% of the people polled were not aware of one of the candidates' stands on most things. So given that, you're right. We've never had such a complete discrepancy between two political parties regarding abortion. One seems to celebrate it, and they make no bones about that. The other may not be as pro-life as you want them to be, but my wife had an interesting observation. I know a number of priests who will not vote for the Republican candidate. Their view is, well, he's morally a problem, and he doesn't really stand completely for what we teach. And my wife's answer to that was, so if you can't save all babies, you're not going to vote to save any? So, there you go, Ron. There's my answer. You're getting yourself frustrated and mad at the wrong entity. It's not the Catholic Church. It is understanding the issues. Catholic Answers puts out a voter's guide, and they put out millions of them to people. And apparently, if you look at the statistics, those people who call themselves Catholics vote basically equally either way. Democrat, Republican. If you narrow it down to weekly mass goers, then they start to move, they lean toward pro-life candidates. If you go even further to more than weekly mass goers and daily prayers and those who might homeschool for Catholic reasons, they are overwhelmingly voting pro-life. So there you go. 877-573-7825. 877-57 equal. Go ahead. If you got a question like Ron, if you say, okay, how come? Now, you can't say the Catholic Church. That's a pretty broad statement. How come I don't hear enough of that kind of talk that makes it real clear that we Catholics, the preeminent issue is life? One of the most ridiculous things that people say to defend their stance, and I know a lot of people who call themselves faith-filled Catholics, and they flat out won't vote pro-life, and they say, "I'm not a single issue voter." Okay, my answer to that is, okay, so death is not a big enough single issue, but beyond that, I ask them this question: if you agreed with the candidate on every single matter, every single stance that candidate had, except there was one, and they said anybody over 70 should not be eligible for Medicare because they're using a disproportionate amount of the health services, and we can't afford to do that anymore, and I'm going to try to do everything I can. Would you vote for him? Now, I've never had anybody older than 70 say they would. Then I say, well, then then you are a single issue voter. It just depends upon the issue. 877-573-7825. Want to hear from you. 877-57-EQUAL. Questions of life, questions of faith as it intersects with life, questions of confusion about what is going on out there. My wife sent me a great article on doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. It's kind of the new word for it. It's going to make you feel miserable if you spend too much time scrolling through the news feeds.
A call from God. Father Mitch Pacwa shares his experience.
I certainly had a bit of opposition. My father wasn't pleased with this at all, and he kept arguing with me. Once when I was 12, he said to me, "What do you want to be a priest for? Why don't you be a doctor? You don't have to be a priest to help people. You can be a doctor and get married, have kids." And I said to him then, "Dad, if I was a doctor and I help people get better, that would be very good. But later on, they're going to die anyway. So if I'm a priest and I hear somebody's confession and they go to heaven, that lasts forever. So that's better." And he didn't know what to say. And he continued to oppose the idea over the next years. Yet that didn't stop me. And even when he said, "I'm going to disinherit you if you become a priest." And on the day of my first Mass, he did. But as I also said to him then, he told me, "Okay, you're out of my will." I said, "Dad, I can't keep it anyway. It doesn't matter. I'm a Jesuit, and we can't keep the money, so it really doesn't affect me. The issue is I'm trying to follow what God, our Lord, is asking of me." And this has been where I have found the greatest joy, that doing what I believe through my own prayer and through reflection and thinking about it and moving from a little boy's idea of what a priest would be like all the way to now in my early 50s, realizing that this is exactly what I think is going to please God the most. And that's what I want to do, to please God.
For information on the priesthood or religious life, log on to www.ewtn.com/religiouslife.
Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Ray. You are listening to a least worst of. The doctor is in. We have no best of, but this is truly one of our least worst. Hey, we got a longtime member of the EWTN radio family, Huntsville Catholic Radio, serving Huntsville, Texas, 21 years. Man, you guys are old men in the Catholic radio world. Congratulations, Raymond Shield, KPIA, from all of us here at EWTN. Way to go. Connie, calling from Michigan, has a granddaughter. They had company. People came over. And this granddaughter is not 2. And granddaughter is not 3, which is really the age range of temper fit meltdowns. This granddaughter is 11. Yeah, I've been seeing an awful lot more of that, Connie. These kids that are 10, 12, and 14 having 2-year-old meltdowns. How are you?
Well, we had a great weekend except for those 2 episodes. Each night was, I don't know, it was like World War III.
Well, what was the trigger?
Well, I think it was who gets which bed.
Oh.
Yeah.
She has a sibling that wanted a top bunk or a bottom bunk or what?
Yeah. They were like 2 double beds and a little twin bed. And I I thought the parents would handle distributing kids here and there, and then there was another bedroom upstairs that two of the girls took. So now we've got two of the daughters and my son and his wife in the basement with two double beds and a twin bed. And my son came up and said, "Mom, do you have any sheets for the twin bed?" I go, "Yeah, we got them." And then he went down and put the little one that was having a problem in the twin bed, and her sister got the double bed. So I don't know if that was the issue, but I didn't want to go there. I just said, "Nah, this is outside my perimeter."
Well, you're smart there for sure. But, Connie, here's my question. Do you see this family very often?
Oh, every couple of months.
Do you see this young lady, this 11-year-old, in circumstances where she has to deal with something not going the way she wants?
Yes, every time.
And how does she do?
She doesn't do well. And I remember one time, it was probably last summer, and we were at a cabin, and the mom took her younger sister in to settle her down, but left that time she was 10-year-old, like out on the street, but not really, but just in a separate room to quiet down. And I think she just resented that. Well, why did my little sister get Mom and I have to go on my own? That's how I read into it. I don't know.
Oh, wait a minute, Connie. Sounds like you're making grandma excuses.
Okay.
So
what did I do wrong?
You're telling me that this kid, as long as you've kind of known her, erupts when she doesn't get her way. And how did her parents deal with her eruption this last time?
I don't know. They were on a separate floor. I don't know. Well, I know my son came up and wanted to make the twin bed into a bed for her. So they just, resolved it that way.
So they tried to appease her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not good?
Well, if you say this is her style, then the question becomes not so much who is she, in other words, is her personality eruptive? The question really becomes, what do her parents do about this, and what have they not done about it for the last 9 years?
Oh, very good.
That's why you're really smart not to say anything.
Yeah, but Dr. Ray, I think it's because the little sister seems to get Mom's attention more than the little 11-year-old. And I don't think she knows how to handle that.
So would that be reason to throw these kind of eruptions?
Yeah, I think in her mind it is.
In your mind, is it?
No, I wish she could just express herself and kind of handle it a little more maturely, but she goes over the edge, and then it's really hard bringing her back.
Connie, you could kind of say the same thing about everybody throwing a major league eruption, no matter what age they are. Something happened that I didn't like. I thought that my little sister's getting more attention than I am, so I'm going to explode. Well,
there you go.
Is that reason?
Well, maybe for a 2-year-old, but I don't think an 11-year-old.
You're right-o there, kid. Absolutely. If a parent brought this 11-year-old into my office, and they said, this is a problem that we have. When something goes against the way she wants it to go, we could see one of these. Not always, but enough.
Right.
The first thing I would ask them is, well, what have you done about this in the past? And Connie, almost always they don't describe holding the child accountable. Oh, we talk to her, we try to calm her down, we try to find out what's wrong, we try to see if maybe we can work it out.
Dr. Ray, that's exactly it.
No, I never would have guessed it. I just took a guess in the dark. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! So now what? Do I talk to my son?
You're helpless because you can't do anything. I guess here's the trajectory of stuff like this that I see most often. Little girl gets to be 13, 14, 15 years old. Very difficult. Very emotionally difficult. Throw in the hormones. throw in a smartphone. Does she have a smartphone already?
No. Okay. Thank goodness.
All right. Well, she's going to push for one, and they'll probably give it to her because she'll get really intense about it. So throw in a smartphone. And then by age 14 and 15, it's untenable. They are completely frustrated in dealing with this child, but, and this is what I see so often, they don't have much of an idea on how they allowed this to happen all these years.
Right.
They look at the child and say, why does she have to be like that?
Oh.
They think it's her personality.
They couldn't see the writing on the wall?
No, most often they don't. Most often they look at the child and say, what is wrong here? What is loose? What is going on? Let's look for the explanation. When in fact, if you don't teach a child, you can't act like that, and there's going to be consequences. For example, I know what my wife would have done if one of our kids would have done something like that. There would have been, the first line consequence would have been, well, you flat out don't get the bed you want now. Now you get the last choice. But the second line consequence might have been, here's your blanket, you can sleep on the floor. That's what would have happened. And there would have been more. There would have probably had been a letter of apology to Grandma for doing that when you visited. A nice long letter of apology talking about how at age 11 you don't need to act that way just because something didn't go the way you wanted it.
Please, gosh, Dr. Ray, is this in one of your books?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
What's the title of that one? I'm going to give it one for Christmas.
Discipline that lasts a lifetime. If you go to the website, it is discounted and signed. And if you act now, you get the Vegematic with the spray-on hair and the Pope Heel Dollar Saver.
Oh, my gosh. Discipline that lasts. Okay, we got her.
I got you. Good luck there, young lady.
Thank you so much, and God bless you abundantly in time and in eternity, okay?
Ooh, like it. Thank you. Bye. I tell you, it's such a common dynamic in my office. The kid's doing the stuff like this 11-year-old is doing. It gets to the point where the parents just either don't want to deal with it anymore or it's becoming so ugly and it's ruining their family life. Because it's unpredictable, see? It doesn't have to happen all the time. I'll ask the parents. Well, they'll go, it doesn't happen all the time. Well, yeah. Nobody throws fits all the time, but you can never know when it's going to happen. It's unpredictable. And usually, now I would say a minority of parents will come in with the insight that we've allowed this and we've been misguided in our approach to it, and it's only gotten much worse. I'd say a minority. I'd say a third. The other 2/3. You know, I read a study that said that some people, 1/3 of people have struggle with mathematics and the other 3/4 don't. So given that, the other 2/3 will say, that's a joke, you guys. It's a mathematical joke. They'll say, why is this child like this? We have a nice family. We give her all kinds of things. I don't get it. Something's wrong. We've had her tested. We've had her evaluated. We're wondering if it's ADHD. We're wondering where this frustration's coming from. She's the middle child. Do you think it's a middle child thing? They're looking for explanations all over the place, as opposed to looking at how they've been allowing this. And thank goodness, most parents that I see are really good people and they're open. So if I explain to them through a gentle series of questions, they come to insight. And then they say, is it too late? I go, no, it's not too late. Might be bumpy for a while. I better take a break.
Ave Maria Radio's Good News Cruise is more popular than ever. Every year, couples testify how their marriages are revitalized and transformed. The 2026 cruise is already 3/4 full, so if you want to join, now is the time. Special guests include musicians Andrea Bocelli, Matt Maher, Sarah Kroger, and John Ignati, as well as hosts from Ave Maria Radio. Fun, romance, devotion. Go to AveMariaRadio.net and click on the Travel tab to find out more. The Heart of the Interior Life with Elizabeth Jingle.
Within the context of St. Ignatius of Loyola's spiritual masterpiece called The Spiritual Exercises, we find what is called the 14 Rules for the Discernment of Spirits. We may consider, where did St. Ignatius' spiritual teaching on discernment originate from? The following is from his autobiography, which highlights the moment his spiritual teaching on discernment is born, when his eyes were opened a little. Yet there was this difference. When he was thinking about the things of the world, he took much delight in them. But afterwards, when he was tired and put them aside, he found that he was dry and discontented. But when he thought of going to Jerusalem, barefoot and eating nothing but herbs and undergoing all the other rigors that he saw the saints had endured, not only was he consoled when he had these thoughts, but even after putting them aside, he remained content and happy. He did not wonder, however, at this, nor did he stop to ponder the difference, until one time his eyes were opened a little.
For more information, visit AveMariaRadio.net.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
I told him about the woman who came to me and said her two children hadn't spoken to each other for 2 years. Their grandma died, and she was very wealthy. She left half to each one. She said they're arguing over a commode. She said it's inlaid. Can you imagine being in hell and somebody saying to you, "What are you here for?"
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
And I don't use tape. Whoa, is that a non sequitur? My wife said that to me the other night. She said, "Are you even listening to me?" And I thought to myself, that's an odd way to start a conversation. I don't use tape. I painted our bedroom and I don't use tape. If you have the right brush, you don't need tape. You can edge right along the casing, right along the baseboard perfectly without getting a spit on that wood. And you know what else you do? You take a razor blade, cutter knife, and you use that razor blade to run it right along the connection, the joint between the wood or the trim, whatever kind of trim you have, and the paint. And it makes a nice, sweet looking edge. I'm telling you. Okay, I got a live read here. St. John the Baptist has it's a small magnet icon. Yeah, it's available at EWTNRC.com. Free shipping. Online orders are $75 or more, but standard shipping. So EWTNRC.com. St. John the Baptist. No man born was greater than St. John the Baptist, but the least in heaven is greater than he. Boy, that's always been a verse that has always just filled me with trying to unpack it. I understand the part about being in heaven, least in heaven. That kind of implies a little bit, too, if you take it literally, that there are kind of statuses in heaven. But even if you lay that aside, no man born of woman is greater than John the Baptist. Forerunner, announcer, trumpeter of Christ. That's his status. So that means greater than Moses, and greater than, well, I guess the apostles, right? Greater than Peter? That's what our Lord said. Interesting. Okay. Oh, boy, just about a minute left. I appreciate the company, as always, here. I did not make it to the gym today. That makes 5 years in a row. That's not true. That's not true. Just show up. That is the shibboleth. You need to just go to the gym. Just show up. If you wait till you feel like going, you won't go. A friend of mine said, "How can you go lift weights when it is easier just to sit on the couch and eat pizza?" That it is. And if you debated between the pizza and the push-ups, pizza wins. You don't debate. You just go. Part of what you do, you get there and you tell yourself how good you're going to feel walking out. And remember this, just a little tidbit of lifting here. You know, they always used to say, no pain, no gain. That's false. That is false. Research has shown that if you stop one repetition or two before total exhaustion, you get the same hypertrophic muscle building benefit. Stick with me for more weightlifting tips. Thank you for joining me here, Andrew Kruchek and Eric Dumont, and all of you. Appreciate so much the company. Walk with God. That is a walk that will never, never turn on you.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.